Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the SwingBadder podcast. We're on number 6. Yes, we made it further than the Yankees, everybody. That's what we do at SwingBadder. SwingBadder.com. Come check out the merchandise. Check out the game. Play with those 5 contracts. Let us know what you think is the worst. Rank them 1 through 5 and see if you can win some SwingBadder cash. Check out the website. We got some great stuff going on, and we're excited about what we're able to produce here with the podcast and the articles. I'm your host, Brendan. Dad, introductions. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing great. Absolutely great. Everything's fine. We're still taking in oxygen every day, so that's good.
Above soil, I love it. And our guest host, we shouldn't even call him a guest host. He's just a permanent fixture in the SwingBadder family. Todd, my older brother, what's going on?
What up? I'm not a hydrocephalic like Mr. Met, so things are pretty good. Take what you can get.
And I'm sure you're still paying the taxes that will help the Mets get their workday, right?
I think we'll pay for that stadium for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. Here we are, and on this wonderful episode, we're going to talk about the beauty that is the offseason for the Padres and the Yankees. But first, we're going to start with the Padres. They're in a very competitive division. They just beat the Dodgers, felt really good, and they got ousted by the Phillies. So they go into the offseason with a ton of guys signed, contracts like crazy. They are with and competing against the Dodgers again, which ran away with the division. They're competing with the Giants. They're competing with the Rockies, competing with the Diamondbacks. So, Dad, how do you feel about the Padres in the offseason, making it to the Final Four? Do they get back? Do they get back to the playoffs? Or was this just a flash in the pan, as they say?
Well, the big thing is they're getting their big superstar Tatis back, hopefully, for the season. Usually when a team does what the Padres did, upset the Dodgers and go farther than people expected, they actually have a fall off the next year. They went further without Tatis, they went further than they were expected, and the next year's a disappointment. I think the opposite's going to happen with them. I think they actually underperformed this year for their talent. Without Tatis, they had periods of time where they struggled. They finished that. They finished 15 or 16 games behind the Dodgers. They were never in the race. I think competitive. I think they'll be better next year. I still, we've had the Dodgers, the best team in probably baseball, for 4 or 5 straight years. It's hard for me to imagine them being better than the Dodgers, because if the Dodgers slip it all, they got this checkbook, they'll just go sign somebody amazing. So, but I think the Padres will actually be better than this year and maybe more competitive with the Dodgers. I know the Giants want to be. The Giants have a very smart organization. They seem to always pull the right strings. They seem to do better than I think they are, but I still see them sitting in a competitive third place. And meanwhile, the Rockies and the Diamondbacks are just going to be like Dumb and Dumber, kind of trying to figure out what to do. In Arizona, we like the Diamondbacks because they are young. They got some talented guys. They're very fast. They'll steal bases. And hopefully, their goal is to get to 500, winning 81 games, which to do that, they have to beat the rest of the National League, because they're not going to play 500 against the Padres and Dodgers, right? So they got to make their wins the other way. I don't know where the Rockies are. I think, to me, they seem to be an organization that they just keep trying, but I don't know if it's a ballpark or whatever.
No, it's not the ballpark. It's the GM's brain. Chris Bryant is the key essential for the Colorado Rockies. They get rid of and pay to get rid of Nolan Arenado, the best third baseman by far in the game. One of the best talents that you have out there. Get rid of him to the Cardinals and pay the Cardinals to take him, only to sign Chris Bryant, your third baseman of the future, who you don't even, again, if you would have just kept Nolan, you'd been fine, but he was so upset. So Chris gets the money. I again, if we're talking just Padres, I think the Padres make it back to the playoffs. don't think they beat the Dodgers, and I think they're very competitive with the Giants. I think the Dodgers run away with it for a couple different reasons. I'll get to that when we cover the Yankees in a minute. I think the Padres are very loaded. Their team, they have Snell coming back, Darvish coming back, Musgrove coming back. They got, Tatis, Machado. They're just so loaded. I do agree. I think they did underperform this year terribly. But I just don't think they're going to compete with the Dodgers. I could be 100% wrong here, obviously, but I haven't been in the playoffs, so I can't be now, right? That doesn't make any sense. So next year, I do think the Padres do make the playoffs. Final four, they're loaded. They're ready to do it. But again, they have to really have that drive to get there. Todd, what do you think on the NL West? What's that, Dad? Go ahead.
I was just going to say so much, and all this stuff depends on injuries, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You go into playoffs
and steroids and steroid use.
Yeah.
Well, if you get caught with it,
it kind of hurt them a little bit. If you get caught with it, shh.
Yeah.
So, Todd, who do you have in the NL West? How do you like the Padres' chances going into next year?
First of all, I'm really impressed that the Colorado Rockies are still paying Todd Helton at 49 years old, $1.5 million a year. I'm just impressed with that level of commitment to players who don't do anything. So that being said, it would not be shocking to me to see Colorado finish in last place or second to last, because that's just what's going on there. Arizona, I'm going to leave Arizona commentary to Dad, mostly because I could name an Arizona Diamondback if you paid me. If you told me Paul Goldschmidt was back on the Diamondbacks, I'd be, okay, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
You do know that Luis Gonzalez retired, right? You do know that.
Well, yeah, and I heard something where one of the players is now managing the Brewers or something. Anyway, but looks like the Diamondbacks are paying Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah,
he's their top guy going into next year. None of that matters really in my mind, what the Colorado and what Arizona are going to do, because it's going to come down to San Diego and LA. I agree with both of you, what you're saying. I just think LA is spending way too much time at the top and not getting anything for it. And I think that they're going to start changing things up in the offseason. We might see some disruption. Are they going to do something completely out of the ordinary and do something like go after Aaron Judge? Could be. Would they bring DeGrom in? It's been talked about. DeGrom pairing up with Kershaw. Could be. Very, very likely. That would really be just a huge win for them. Is that something San Diego decides that they need to do with their roster and what's going on there? I just think San Francisco just seems like it's just an old team. You're talking about injury and that type of thing. So I just, to me, they just seem like they're going to be out of it. It doesn't seem like they've got a lot going on. Heck, you're paying Evan Longoria next year. So you're not winning with Evan Longoria on your payroll.
So you touched on Aaron Judge. I think one of the keys in the offseason, the Dodgers already lost to the Padres. The Padres and Dodgers are so loaded that you literally could have about 8 to 12 All-Stars on those teams. Correct. Just those two teams. Yep. That's how loaded those two teams are. I think one of the big things that's going to be interesting to me this offseason is Cody Bellinger and Aaron Judge did the same thing. They both signed 1 year deals. If you're the Dodgers, don't you lay out the red carpet and tell Aaron Judge to come to the Dodgers, and now you have a Judge and Mookie Betts outfield.
What do you do with Mookie Betts? Where does he play?
And go after Mookie Betts can go to center or left, you're fine. Or you can have Judge go to center or left, you're fine. Judge and Betts, that's your outfield. That's incredible.
That's gross.
The only thing I can see the Dodgers looking at that and not being happy with it is Bellinger's a lefty, Betts was a righty. They like the righty-lefty style. They're both righties, Betts and Judge. That could be against them. But Bellinger's been so bad, I think everyone would be amped to have Judge as a Dodger. If you're the Dodgers, you go after DeGrom, you go after Judge, and you go, we're going to compete. Don't worry about DeGrom. Dave Roberts yanks their pitchers after 5 or 6 innings every game. He loves doing it. So I think we all have the Padres going back. The Padres are so loaded. The Dodgers and Padres are just loaded. I think
that I think the Padres beat the Dodgers next year, and I think the Dodgers blow up on injuries because they're just getting old. It's just that I know you're going to sign these guys. I know you're going to try to fix it. The Padres showed in this offseason that they have the ability to trade and to build the team in the middle of the year. They have the ability to do that. So I just think the Padres are a better run organization. They're younger. Their players, I think, are more exciting in the long run. And the players that we're talking about, the Dodgers signing, are not players that are playing the whole season. You might get like 3 good quality seasons out of Aaron Judge. Forget that one. But DeGrom's not pitching the whole season. You keeping Bauer? He's not. Yep. He's not playing the whole season. So to me, I'm just looking at the ages of the Dodgers here. Freddie Freeman, 33. Justin Turner's 38. Chris Taylor, 32. Muncy, 32. Blake's 35. Danny Duffy, 34. Hudson's 36. Austin Barnes, 33. Where's anybody in their 20s that you're paying? Give me one person in their 20s you're paying. Who do the Padres have? Juan Soto could re-sign. They didn't bring him in. Tatis, 24 years old. Like, it's a lineup of youth versus experience. And right now, the Dodgers' only experience is winning 1 game in the playoffs.
So you have the Padres winning the NL West over the Dodgers. The offseason is going to say a lot of that. Obviously, the Dodgers and Padres will compete spending-wise. We both know that. I think my wild card of this division is going to be the Diamondbacks for next season, not just because I'm a homer and not just because I hope, but they had a competitive team. They blew a bunch of saves. They were terrible in the bullpen. I think the bullpen's the easiest thing to shore up as long as you're not doing it like the old school Diamondbacks and do it as a new school Diamondbacks, follow Tampa. I don't know. Anything you can do there. Their wild card, I think the Giants take a step possibly back. But again, the Giants could spend money in the offseason to really combat and go and compete against the Padres. The California teams are tough. The Rockies are a barn fire. I agree. They're 5th, no doubt. The Diamondbacks could make a run at 3rd, but that's the wild card. They would be a 3rd-place team at best. Padres and Dodgers are definitely back. Huge off seasons. We'll see what they do. I like your take, Todd, a lot about their age. I do agree their age is, they got the youth, that's for sure.
The Dodgers' best pitcher this year wasn't Kershaw. It was Urias, and he's young, and he was really good. And Gonsolin pitched better than Kershaw. So they during the season, they had Kershaw was not their ace.
If they keep him.
And he's old.
If they keep him.
If they may not, I don't know. And Bellinger, I don't see them keeping Bellinger. I think Bellinger's played out his options in L.A. He needs a fresh scene.
Right, but the Padres, Darvish is 36.
Yeah, I know.
Could he pull a Verlander? The guy's got. How many pitches does that guy throw? I think he's got like 15 pitches.
Right.
Somebody's saying, he could come back next year with a knuckleball and really mess with everybody's head, and then he's pitching for the next 14 years.
It'll be a fun offseason. We're going to get a lot of money this year by these teams. All 3 of the teams in California, I think, are going to spend a fortune to try to compete. I don't think the Giants like sitting there out of the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with them. That's our preview of the NL West. We do all have the Padres getting back in the playoffs. I don't think. Do you think Padres are Final Four next year? Do you think they're getting to the championship game?
It's possible.
Yeah.
You got them both. That's again. I think it matters who you play, how you get there, all that stuff. Wild cards are pretty big this year. I think that helped those wild card teams to line up their pitching because the Dodgers and some of these teams ran away with the division so quickly. On to the AL East. The Yankees still haven't showed up. Aaron Judge, is that his last hit as a Yankee? A ground out to the pitching mound.
No.
And is that how he goes out as a Yankee? Todd, you're in New York.
You cannot let this guy go. You can't let this guy go. If you're a New Yorker, you're not letting this guy go. He was the driving story on the Yankees. He was the Yankees this year. He has inherited they're going to make him the team captain. They're going to give him what he wants. Their big question really comes down to pitching on that team, but they're facing the same problems the Dodgers are. I'm going to buy talent and I'm going to try to home grow what I can. The question is, are they home growing what they need to home grow in order to compete? I don't know that they are. It makes it a little bit difficult. So, I think that there's a lot there. They're doing what they can. But I think Judge stays with the Yankees. I know we can talk about what he would look like on other teams. It's not happening. Not happening.
So you have Judge staying with the Yankees. The Yankees are in the AL East. Let's talk about what you think they're going to do next year. You have Boston, you have Toronto, you have Tampa, and you have the surprise. The surprise team of the division was the Orioles, spending 20 cents, 15 cents comparison to those other teams. The Orioles are extremely young. They had tried to buy talent and just never worked out, so they went the whole other route. So Tampa and Baltimore were competitive. Boston was not. Toronto was. Dad, who do you have in that division? How do you see it stacking up with the Yankees now going back?
I think this division will probably be the most interesting division, because if you just look at this year, 3 wild card teams. You had Toronto and Tampa. Baltimore was the next team if somebody slipped. So that's 3 potential wild cards right under them, and Boston will improve because Boston's not going to sit back there and just be crappy. They just won't. That division could be a race, really, with 5 teams having a shot, maybe not of winning it, but beating each other up all year long, so that the winner of that division may not have more than 90 wins, because that's going to be a really tough division to play in. I think it's going to be the most interesting division to watch, because the Yankees are obviously the team everybody looks at, but I'm telling you, they're going to have their hands full with all of them. There's not a really terrible team in the division.
Well, you know what? The committed payroll for next year that Baltimore has, $19 million. $19 million.
They could get Judge. Why don't they get Judge?
It's just a train ride away.
They have spent in the past.
Train ride away.
They have spent in the past.
And then Tampa's only Tampa's committed payroll right now for next year, $41 million.
Tampa and Baltimore definitely wild cards for sure as far as what they could do this offseason. Baltimore could spend the money. I know they have to pay a couple people. Todd, who does Baltimore paying to not play at all? I know Chris Davis is getting a ton of money to sit on the bench with his steroid use. What does he have getting paid? How many Baltimore they have 19 players. How many non-players are they paying?
Well, right now for next year, Chris Davis is the only retained salary at $5.6 million. So
it's not bad.
I
thought it was a lot more.
His deferred, right? They deferred $9.1 million of his. They deferred $4.5 million of Alex Cobb. Darren O'Day deferred $1 million, and Bobby Bonilla is getting $500,000 a year from the Baltimore Orioles.
That is beautiful. So Bobby Bonilla is not only getting money from the Mets, he's getting money from the Orioles as well.
I really need, if we're going to do an interview on this podcast, Bobby Bonilla or his agent to be our first guest.
He's like the mafia. Just every business has to pay him so much money just to stay open.
Right.
So if you need to play baseball, you got to pay Bobby Bonilla. I think the wild card.
Are you guys skipping over Toronto, who's got a ton of young talent?
That's my wild card. I thought Toronto, if you're talking about the NL West underperforming Padres, I thought Toronto underperformed. They spent a ton on pitching.
Yep.
I thought Vlad Guerrero Jr. had an off season. I thought Springer had an off season. I think they can both come back and just their bats can eat. Toronto has spent money to be there. And the question we didn't even ask, my favorite player on the Dodgers, where is Trey Turner going to slide into the hearts of millions? Where is he going? Is he going to Texas? Are the Rangers really committed to having Corey, who is it, Seager and Turner back again for season 2 of sliding beautifully, because that would be my promo for that team, is just them sliding everywhere.
You might find the Dodgers step up and keep him.
Oh, he's such a beautiful slider. Toronto, I think, could easily win that division. I don't think Boston's competitive next year. I don't think they're going to. I think Boston still is out. I think they're on the outs. They haven't figured it out. They're kind of like, had a bad meal. They haven't been feeling good in a while. So I don't see Boston doing it. Toronto is definitely going to go all in. I think Baltimore was a flash in the pan. They're not, unless they make huge signings this offseason, I don't see them doing a whole lot. They're going to be that 4th team. So the top 3 is still Tampa, Toronto, and the Yankees. And I have Toronto beating the Yankees. I think this loss, you're talking about 5 losses in a row in the championship, the American League Championship. That just does something to your psyche.
Well, what's going to happen?
So
what's going to happen with the Yankees? What's going to happen with the Yankees after they fire Boone and Cashman is that they now have to build a team around Judge and Garrett Cole, and they have to go find some young players and start building around those guys.
You're not talking about Stanton? They have him for another, 5, 6, 7 years.
I'm
I'm
sitting there thinking about this, and I don't even know how to. I got to tell you, the Yankees are probably in the toughest spot, and are in a position to probably fall the farthest because they're locked into these guys that are older.
Yes, they are.
In one of our previous podcasts, Todd talked about the fear of Judge turning into King Kong Kingman. No, you already got him. It's called Stanton.
Yeah.
Not Judge, Stanton.
You have 2 powerful right-hand hitters that are both strikeout prone, and that's been the problem in all of these playoffs. You have Stanton and Judge, and they're both righties. You bring in a right-handed reliever, you strike them both out, and you move on. And you don't have a lefty in there to mash. And to your point about Aaron Boone, why wasn't a Rizzo sitting between a Judge and a Stanton? Why is he leading off?
Oh.
Why is he in front of these guys? Why isn't he in between them? I think Rizzo, I know he's a little older, but he's not crazy. 33 in his prime. He's a great in-betweener of those 2 guys. He can mash, great bat, great hitter all around. And if you have to face 3 batters, and without the shift, that's the other thing. These left-handed batters, finally, without the shift next year, are going to demand some good salaries. So Bellinger, I think, will improve greatly without the shift. Rizzo's going to improve. So that should help them. But I still think Toronto in the AL East is my number 1 pick. I think the Yankees are number 2, Tampa's 3, Orioles 4, and I got Boston rounding out 5th.
Wow.
Those are my teams.
Boston and
that's
5th.
That's my AL East.
That's where they lived this year. They were 5th this year,
and they didn't do anything to try to persuade talent. They got guys leaving their team, and I don't know if they're going to be able to bring up the farm system or what they're planning on, but they're not there. They're not there at all.
Do you think that Boston fans need another 100 years of not winning so they can build back up a sense of victimhood about their teams? Do you feel like that Boston has won too much, and so now your average Boston fan has just become so complacent towards sports that the owners in Fenway are thinking to themselves, we just don't even have to finish higher than 5th until we start sacrificing goats again on home plate? Is that what you're thinking? Is that the Boston attitude towards it? I don't know. Because I worry about
New England. I always thought all of New England only followed a team if they won. And once they weren't winning, they would move to another sport because they have 4 sports. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking right now everyone in New England is a Celtic fan. They don't believe football or baseball even exists because those teams are not winning it. That's kind of, I don't know about the Bruins. I don't follow hockey that much, but the Celtics
Bruins
are good.
Bruins are good.
I would say that people in New England don't even recognize football or baseball at this current moment.
The Boston fans have won so much over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
So many different sports that even if the Red Sox did not even go to the playoffs for the next 5 years, you have the Bruins, you have the Celtics, and they are very competitive. The Celtics are very young. So again, to your point, Dad, they're just going to move on. They're going to move on, be happy, put their hats on, change their jersey. We still beat you in this or beat you in that. They're just moving on. Can all four sports stink again? No, there's no way all four sports are going to collectively stink. They're not New York, so they'll be just fine. They'll be competitive. I think Boston Red Sox are taking a back seat for a bit. I mean, they had some bad signings. I think they take a bad seat. We'll see if Toronto can ever put it together. I still think they have that Canadian complex. It's a terrible complex.
Well, maybe they're all ticked off because of the taxes they have to pay.
Yeah, I mean,
it costs a lot of money to be a player in Canada.
That's why the Expos had to move.
Did you notice all that?
Just a minute. Taking off the Expos, I have to take my hat off and hold it over my heart.
Did you notice all the children of the Expos players are now playing for Toronto Blue Jays?
I didn't know.
Guerrero, Bichette. These are all ex-Expos.
Where's Randy Johnson's kid? How about Roger Clemens? Did his kid ever do anything?
He's pitching in the minors.
Man, that would be rough.
That's good.
Can you imagine having your dad throw baseball bats at you all day? Like that would, like if you're Clemens' kid and you're pitching and all he's doing, he's throwing baseball bats at you and you're like, what are you doing? He's like, you never know when Mike Piazza's going to sneak up on you with a broken bat. Could happen.
Just say he misremembered.
Yeah.
He just misremembered.
You never know.
Dad has old timers again. Right. No, he's fine. He's fine. Don't worry about him. Oh, wow. So
yeah, he misremembered and Sammy Sosa forgot how to speak English. That was quite a hearing. Yeah. Quite a hearing.
Do the Yankees make it to the Final Four for a sixth year in a row, and do they get to the series next year?
I'm going to vote no. It's just like Houston's got a 9-game winning streak. They're not going to keep it up. Houston's ready to lose. This doesn't go on forever.
I think there's too many young teams right now in the American League, and I think that I think the Yankee fans. I mean, you got close. You're experiencing a little bit of what the rest of baseball fandom has experienced for 100 years. The rest of baseball goes to the playoffs and loses. The Yankees 27 times. Goes, or maybe 28, I've lost count. I'm sure Yankee fans will remind us, go to the playoffs and win all the time. World Series. Look at my rings. I can't hold them on my fingers and toes. It's too much. I need an extra hand. Oh, all I do is win World Series. Not anymore. Not anymore. It's like Game of Thrones. Winter is coming, Yankee fans. Brace yourselves. It's going to be like the 80s. You're entering the phase of just really cold winters because you're not going to be in the playoffs.
So, my biggest problem with baseball in general when they have coverage is that wonderful 4-letter word. We don't even need to say it on this wonderful podcast. Is when the Yankees in Boston are not good, they act like the baseball doesn't even happen because they have their mecca is out there. I would love, and I'm not saying, well, yeah, let's just say this. Let's just go with this. Toronto won. I'm changing it up. Toronto won. They win the division. Number 2 is going to be Tampa. Number 3 is the Orioles. The Yankees finished 4th. The Yankees in Boston are out. They don't even make the playoffs next year because the biggest problem that nobody remembers is when you sign a $300 million deal, no matter who you are, you're trying to earn every one of those dollars the very first year you sign. You press, you play hard. Look at everybody who signs major deals. The first year out of a major deal is so difficult for their team. They press. And in baseball, when you're pressing, you're dead. You're dead. You have to be smooth. You got to be at ease. You got to be in a rhythm. You got to follow all of your methodologies, your breathing methods. You got to be delivering a baby. You got to be focused. When you get $300 million, you're panicked. You're trying to make a pizza. You're trying to make a chicken. You're trying to make Thanksgiving happen every single game, and it just is too much.
So you're saying don't too much. They're pushing.
Oh, they press so hard. They press so hard when they get signed in the when they sign those big deals. And Judge is going to sign such a big deal. So think about it. His wife looks at him differently. She's like, "You're a $300 million man. You better deliver." He strikes out. They'll be like, "How much are we paying him to strike out?" Because they don't say it's $30 million per year. Mookie Betts didn't play well that first year. He was okay. Freddie Freeman had a really good year. He just signed a big deal, but he's much older. This is Judge's first major league massive deal, and it's just natural to press. It's just natural. So, yeah, I got the Yankees fourth. They're out of the playoffs. They don't make it next year. The Yankees fans and Boston fans. So, therefore, the four-letter word won't cover baseball because they're out. Boo-hoo-hoo. So, you have Tampa and Baltimore and Toronto, and Toronto's going to run away with the division. That's what I got. Oh, Canada, there you go. Enjoy it. Toronto, you're winning the division next year.
I have a gospel that you just broke. A commandment, I'll say. I believe that since so many teams make the baseball playoffs, we got 12 teams make the playoffs, that you can spend your way into the playoffs, but you can't spend your way into a world championship. And I think the Yankees and the Dodgers are just in that position. They won't let them miss the playoffs. If that means in the middle of the year, just going and getting some big people to push them over the top, they'll do what's necessary to make the playoffs. But I could be wrong, but I've just really believed if you have enough money, you can get into the playoffs. But whether you win it or not, then it's a whole different game.
I don't.
But I suppose you could prove me wrong because there are probably some teams not playing in the playoffs this year that spent a lot of money.
Some teams made the playoffs that didn't buy their way. And I think that either Toronto or Tampa. Now, if Boston doesn't make the playoffs next year, I think Toronto does make the playoffs, and I think Tampa makes the playoffs. And I think I'm split between Baltimore and the Yankees. Both of them may not make the playoffs. I don't know.
All right, so I'm just going to tell you some teams that did not make the playoffs that are in the top 14
I know
payroll.
Your first team. I know your first team.
No, my first team is very, very basic. It's going to be the Texas Rangers rounding out at 14th. The Texas Rangers spent a lot of money there, but they didn't get there.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with your favorite, the Angels.
Yeah. Well, I didn't.
I'll get to the Angels.
Yeah. Okay,
Cubs.
Go ahead.
Cubs.
I'll get to the Angels. So here's the teams that didn't make it: the Rangers, the Giants, the Twins, the Angels, and believe it or not, the Rockies are a top 10 payroll, and the White Sox.
No, that's going into 2023.
Spend a lot of money.
That's 2023.
Oh, this is 2023?
Yeah,
I'm all wrong. I have the wrong dates.
Now, 2022.
My bad. You have the Rangers, you have the Cubbies, you have the Giants, and then you have the Angels, of course. The White Sox, the Red Sox have spent all that money. Yeah. So the Red Sox spent all that money, did not make the playoffs. Mets spent the most, and they got in, obviously. So to your point, yep. The Rockies are 17th, though. The Twins are 16th. They're right there. The Tigers, holy cow. You want to talk about a murder. The Detroit Tigers are the 18th biggest payroll in baseball this year, and that's what they produce.
40% win percentage.
Just Javier Baez, thank you. Javier Baez, thank you very much.
The Nationals weren't far behind.
So,
the Nationals were 20th.
And they were terrible.
But the Nationals got rid of a lot of big contracts. They just couldn't get rid of Corbin. But I think got rid of most of the other bad ones.
The Oakland Athletics are absolutely just that's a crazy. That stuff blows my mind.
I'm curious to how the Rockies got to be in 10th in 2023. Who are they spending money on?
Who are they?
Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant. Yeah, Chris Bryant is most of it.
And Nolan Arenado.
Because
look at how much they're paying Nolan Arenado next year.
Well, the thing is, they're because you have all the guys that are going to go to arbitration too, and they're not listed on this. So, Bryant's 28, Blackman's 15, Marquez is 15, Freeland's 10, Grichuk is 10.
How much are they paying Nolan next year? How much do they pay Nolan to play for the Cardinals?
The Cardinals. I was talking about the Colorado Rockies.
I know. How much are the Rockies paying for Nolan Arenado to play for the Cardinals? It's embarrassing.
$21 million. $21 million at a retained salary.
So their third baseman, add Chris Bryant and Nolan's salary together, and how much are they paying for their third baseman?
$50 million.
$50 million, and you told me it was impossible for Aaron Judge to get $50 million a year.
Not anymore. Not anymore. That's one position that Colorado is paying, and the Cardinals are like, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Unbelievable. They paid to get rid of Nolan. Oh, the Colorado Rockies, their GM deserves a medal. They did a parade. They need to have parades for terrible GMs. Like Detroit just fired their GM. I forgot his name. He signed Javier Baez, who has the best strikeouts in the history of the game when the ball is like barely left the pitcher's hand and he swung 3 times and the ball finally crosses the plate. They signed Javier Baez. He was terrible this year. He'll be terrible next year. He signed for like 7 years to be on Detroit. It's so terrible.
Yeah, speaking of the Cardinals.
And then they fired the GM.
Guess how much in retained salaries the Cardinals have next year? 0.
How is that with Goldie and Arenado?
Retained.
No,
retained. Like that for
meaning
people that aren't playing for them. Right.
They pay nobody to they're paying nobody to not play for them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an oddity. Yeah, well, the Cardinals are like a well-run baseball team.
Well,
they actually look at your resume and they're like, "Oh, look, you actually have a winning organizational idea here. We're going to hire you." Unlike the Mets, who are like, "Oh, you worked for the Angels."
All right, are we going to get into this?
Ooh,
are we really?
How do we sign you for 35 years? No, we're not going into the NL.
The Mets are achievers. The Mets are achievers, and they are going to achieve the $300 million payroll next year because we win, and that's what we're in for. $300 million.
Hold on. They're achievers or believers?
They're both.
Are they on a journey?
Believe achievers. The Mets are believe achievers.
Do they have synergy? Because when I do a business, let's talk business, synergy, journeys. Yay. Our GM needs positive reinforcement.
We'll do the NL East next. We'll do the NL East next one.
Absolutely. So here's what we got. AL East, I'll run through mine again because I'm going to go wild. We're going to go Toronto, Tampa, Baltimore, Yankees, Boston. That's my 5 picks for the AL East. The NL West, I'm going completely different. I got Dodgers, Padres. I'll put the Diamondbacks, Giants, and then I'll put the Colorado Rockies. Dad, what do you got? What do you got for the NL West first?
NL West, I got Padres might beat the Dodgers, but they're going to be very close. I think the Giants are 3rd, Diamondbacks 4th, Colorado 5th. And in the American League, I'm not going with the Yankees out of the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs whether they finish 2nd, 3rd, or 1st. They'll make the playoffs. But that's a tough one for me to pick. I also like Toronto a lot.
All right, there's another non-committed commitment from my father. He's the best at that.
Hey,
it's amazing. How long have you been married again for everybody in the cheap seats?
Hey, you stay married for 50 years because you're never right. If you want to be right, you got problems, okay? Just a little word of wisdom. Give up being right.
Fair point. He's committed in one thing, folks, just not in his predictions. Todd, what do you got for the AL East?
Toronto will finish in 1st place. The Yankees will finish in 2nd. Then Tampa, then Baltimore and Boston. So
Tampa, then Boston. You got Boston 5th.
Baltimore, Boston 5th, and then in the West. San Diego will finish in 1st. The Dodgers will finish in 2nd. Arizona 3rd. Then San Francisco, then Colorado.
Fair. I think we can all commit to the Colorado Rockies are terrible. We've all committed to that, and we all have Boston finishing last. There's your picks for next year. Let's wait to see who does the most signings. I think it will be interesting, and we'll retouch on this after we get to the big signing days. As for this podcast, the number 6, we're about to close it out. I appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for listening to number 6, SwingBadder.com. That's BADDER. As we always say, batter on with the articles. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. This is a fun time. Todd, any closing thoughts for everybody?
Hey, listen, when in doubt, just swing the bat, close your eyes, and hope your helmet doesn't pop off.
Thank you, Bartolo Colon.
Hey, I'm 74 years old. I had to go to the bathroom 15 minutes ago, so I'm out of here.
That's it. Thanks, Dad. 50 years married. There you go. Hey, everybody. Have a great one. Batter up.